Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning and welcome to Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 70 countries, such as the United States, Canada, Norway, Belgium, all the way to New Zealand and Australia. So I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here is where we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives, and how we use this to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network Tuesday through Friday. You can join our Facebook community, Life Transformation Radio Community, and never miss an episode by subscribing to the show wherever you're comfortable listening to podcasts. You can subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, Castbox, Himalaya app, and the Google Play Music app. I bring on entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, simply amazing people who are impacting the world around them. My guest today does just that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, you can call us up at 657-383-1109. Again, the number, 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my friend, Dena Moes. Dena, how are you this morning?
I'm feeling great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
I am super pumped to have you on the show because we have a lot to talk about. I resonate with a lot of your message, and we're going to get into the adventure and the midwife. And I have so much to talk about with you. It is absolutely going to be amazing.
Wonderful. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So this episode, titled Adventure, Motherhood, and Love with Dena Moes. Dena is a Hollywood-born, Yale-educated midwife with a BA in literature and a master's in nursing. She grew up in West Hollywood, went to college on the East Coast, and spent her wild 20s in the East Village of New York City. Dena and her husband Adam have raised their daughters in Chico, California, where Dena was a home birth midwife for a dozen years. Dena is the author of The Buddha Sat Right Here, a family odyssey through India and Nepal, a memoir of adventure, motherhood, and love woven into a spiritual journey. This book recently won the gold medal in travel literature in the 2019 Independent Publishers Awards. As a nurse midwife, Dena has provided compassionate health care to women, mothers, and babies for 20 years. Learn more at Dena, D-E-N-A, Moes, M-O-E-S, DenaMoes.com. Her Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are all right there in the show notes. So, Dena, it's got to take a special somebody to be a midwife and and someone who does home birthing, but also someone who takes their entire family on a journey through India and Nepal. So talk to us about what your deep, deep why is.
Okay, that is such a wonderful thing to talk about. So my deep why is that from a very early age, I had this incredible desire to help save the world and to be a change agent and make a difference. on the planet. And, I really got that impulse in college, and I wasn't sure where to go with it. So I explored lots of different things, and I was a theater artist in a radical revolutionary theater troupe, and a writer and an artist. And I also became a very staunch feminist, and that's because, I went to an Ivy League college in the 1980s, and I just brushed up against so much patriarchy and difficulties as a woman to be in that environment, and that sort of birthed within myself a major feminism that to this day, guides me. And so I was living in New York City in my early 20s, and my friend brought home this book called Spiritual Midwifery by Ina May Gaskin, and she placed it in my hands. And it's the story of the resurgence of home birth midwifery in the United States. And I just realized that I had found my calling to do women's health and midwifery. Yep.
Wow. So my mom is a doula, and she has practiced this for many years. And the one question that I always ask her and talk with her about, I'm like, is it like sanitary? Like, is it like, what if something happens? Like, because you don't have a lot of medical equipment there. Like, what if, because there's a lot of people that they don't vaccinate their kids. They don't use like Western medicine. They don't they have certain beliefs. So if they haven't been checked up properly, or if they don't what if the cord gets wrapped around the baby's neck? Like, there's a lot to go into this.
Let me just stop you right there, because so I'm a certified nurse midwife, which means I have a master's degree in nursing, and when I attend a home birth, bring a lot of emergency equipment. I bring oxygen, I bring medications to stop a hemorrhage, I bring suture and lidocaine if we need to do any repair, I bring what is needed to help a baby. There's just so much information about birth. This could be a whole episode. Like you saying, what if there's a cord around the baby's neck? Well, that's a variation of normal. There's no problem if a cord is around the baby's neck. You just unwrap it after the baby's born. It's not a problem. So,
got it.
And then you have to understand, too, that birth has only been in hospitals for less than 100 years of human history. And look how many people there are on the planet. So clearly, birth is not so dangerous that humans have been unable to populate the planet, until there were hospitals. So,
true.
And
true.
The truth is that birth is a powerful rite of passage for women. And when women are supported and treated with respect and not sort of pounded with fear and negative scenarios, all the hormones and all the processes can unfold with less complications. And so, studies show again and again that home birth midwifery is safe, because the biggest thing a woman needs when she's giving birth is to feel comfortable, uninhibited, and supported in her environment. And so that's why midwifery works.
Yeah. Have you done water births?
Yeah. I used to bring a tub around and people could have water births, and a lot of times women labor in the water a lot because the warm water is very relaxing for the back, and she can move around in the water without gravity. And I found over the years that when it's time to push the baby out, she tends to get out of the birthing tub and let gravity help her there. Yeah.
I've heard from those who have done it, and of course I've heard from my mother that it's like a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
The water birth is just like, it's an experience, because the baby is already in like fluid. Right? So it's coming out into fluid. And she goes, you wouldn't believe that the baby breathes for just a second, under the water, because it's the water, like it breathes just for a second, because that's what it's used to, and then you bring the baby out, and everything else is normal,
Well, it doesn't breathe under the water. Again, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
It doesn't breathe under the water, but it's still getting oxygen through the placenta, which is how it was getting oxygen in utero. So it doesn't. The baby doesn't breathe until you pull it out of the water. Then he takes his first breath, clears the
100%.
lungs. So
100%.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
But
Tell
what
your
you're saying
mom,
is like
keep on keeping on.
right, and she dispels rumors and stuff, But I mean, what I'm basically saying is it's going from one water-based area to another, right? And then she's like, you pick up the baby, it starts breathing on its own, and because it's the transition. She says it's just beautiful because it's the environment that's been created. Right, so it goes from, like you said, in utero and all that, to the water, and then boom, you pick it up, and it takes its first breath, and it just the whole process. I guess I've never seen it, but the whole process, I guess, is absolutely fascinating. So
it's a great way to start motherhood with a natural, normal birth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, and like you said, a lot of rumors, a lot of myths, a lot of fear. I think people don't do it out of fear. So moving forward with everything that you have done and accomplished, what would you say is a transformational moment that changed your life, which then put you on the path to what you're doing today?
Great question. So I will have to say that it happened when I was 27 years old. So it was a few years ago now. And I was something of a spiritual seeker. Even while I was becoming a midwife and living in New York, I was really looking for spiritual guidance to my life, because I always had this really strong feeling that there's a lot more to life than what we see on the surface. That there's profound, deep wisdom and meaning below the surface, and I've always been somewhat of a seeker of that kind of wisdom. And so my friend, when I graduated with my master's in nursing from Yale and had sat for my board to become a certified nurse midwife, my friend Samantha took me out to an event called the Rainbow Gathering, which is a gathering of, we call it a gathering of the tribes, where people come out there. It's free. It's in the deep wilderness, and everyone comes out there with the intention to pray for world peace together. And so there's people of all different faiths and creeds and nationalities, and it's a really beautiful thing. It's been happening every summer since 1964, and my friend took me out there, and I just felt this deep sense of home when I arrived there, and with everyone, such an intentional gathering of people. And I pitched a tent, and I went to bed. We got there kind of late at night. And I woke up in the morning, and I got out of my tent, and there, sitting under the tree near my tent, was this beautiful young man sitting in meditation. And he was just radiating this love and peacefulness. And I just thought immediately, oh, whatever it is he is doing, that's what I need to be doing too.
Yeah.
So I went for a little walk, and I said, well, if he's still there when I come back, maybe I'm going to go over there and talk to him or something. So I went for a walk. I came back. He was still sitting there. So I just went and I sat down, and I looked, and he looked up, and we looked into each other's eyes silently for 5 minutes or so. And then he started telling me about his meditation practice. And that is my husband, Adam.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
how I met my husband. that's how I became a student of Buddhism. And he had just gotten back from a year in India where he had studied with incredible masters of Tibetan Buddhism through Tibetan teachers who were refugees from Tibet living in India. And he had had some extraordinary experiences there. And he had a lot to share. And so we fell in love, and I learned about Buddhism, and that really planted the seed that later, right in the middle of raising our children, we would shutter our house and close our businesses and take the kids to India and Nepal for almost a year.
That's amazing. Wow. That's awesome. Back
it's a true story. That was 1996.
That's that's when you met him, was in 1996?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh wow. Back in February of 2018, I had my friend Harry Sherwood on the show, and his episode is Living a Life of Wellness. And Harry Sherwood on the show talked about backpacking through those areas that you're talking about and living with some Buddhist monks for a year. He just lived there, and then he was
fantastic.
There's one, I can never remember what it's called, but it wasn't like a mosque. It's called something, but he had lived in this place or whatever, and he just learned how to be in tune with his body, with his soul, with his mind, and it really made him who. It's a fascinating episode on the show. Yeah, he was on the show February 8th of 2018, and the episode is Living a Life of Wellness with Harry Sherwood. Fascinating episode, and I give anybody credit who is willing to do things like that, because it's so different than what we're used to, right? Like living that lifestyle is completely different than how we were raised, how we were taught. It's completely 180. So I give anybody credit who does that. That's awesome.
Here's the thing. So we built this beautiful American life, Adam and I, and we had everything. We had a nice house. We had businesses that were doing well. We have beautiful children and lovely charter schools for them to attend. And we looked great on social media and have friends. And so we're right in the middle of raising these kids, and I just started feeling like something was missing. Like I was running around to keep up with all of this great stuff, but something in my inner being was just was shriveling up. And, so it's almost like it's not that it's like we had to do it. It's like, I think when people go on a spiritual journey or take a pilgrimage or go to learn, it's like your inner self is telling you to do it. And it's like, well, what are your options? Start antidepressants, get a divorce, or go and seek wisdom that can then, help you to navigate what this life is. And so that's what we chose to do. We went seeking wisdom.
I love
that. And the kids loved it.
Oh, I bet. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I always tell my kids, because I go on different speaking engagements, and we just got back from New York City. I was speaking at an event in New York City, and it just so happened that the event was April 13th, and my daughter's 5th birthday was on the 14th, on Sunday. And so I told her, I said, well, what do you want to do for your birthday? You know, she's thinking. I was like, well, I'll be in New York City. She goes, yeah, I want to go to New York City. Let's do this. Because I could have just flew in and then came back and flew out, you know, whatever. So we literally spent the weekend in New York City, and we did everything. I mean, she got a horse carriage ride, right? She got a horse carriage ride through Times Square, and I got a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old. She's 5 now, and then I have an 18-month-old, and everything was just amazing. And then we took them to the big toy store that Big was filmed in. FAO Schwartz played in the big piano. You know, it was amazing. And I'm trying to teach my kids that the moments are what matters. You know, not so much the money and the, you know, and the businesses and life and like everything in like big picture, like just the little moments, the little things. And this is something that they're going to live with forever. These moments, moment to moment.
There's no place better to learn that than in India. I am telling you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, or New York City, either one.
Yeah. Expand more on that. What was it about India that stood out for you?
So India is a very special, it's an incredible and complex country and huge, and there's so many different things going on. So when we went to India, we really had the focus of being there as guests in the country to learn about the culture and be in sacred places and gain wisdom from these ancient traditions. So what's incredible about India is that some of the major world religions, you know, began there: Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, and it's been an unbroken lineage of these spiritual traditions. And so people have been praying in these sacred places for hundreds of years, or some places in thousands of years, like in Varanasi on the holy river Ganges. It's been a sacred site for over 6,000 years, and people have been coming there every day to make pilgrimage since that time. And the power of that kind of reverence and devotion, it's really incredible. And it's really hard for Americans to understand what it's like to be in such a historic place, because, you know, everything in the United States is fairly new. It's like if it's 100 years old, it's considered old. But in India, if something is 5,000 years old, it's considered old. And so it's just a really incredible place. And the other thing is that spirituality is really infused into daily life. So it's not kind of kept separate or Sundays only. It's like if you're walking down a street in a town, if there's a beautiful tree growing, someone has put an altar there, you know, with a god and an incense and flowers. And on every corner there's little temples and there's festivals all the time. And there's holy men. You know, that's a profession. If you want to be a wandering holy man, you know, you can do that. There's space for that within the culture. People will support that. And so there's so many facets that make it a very rich life from a spiritual point of view. And for so Buddhism, so the tree where Prince Siddhartha sat until he awakened to enlightenment and became the Buddha is in India. And you can still go to that place. It's called Bodh Gaya, which means place of awakening. And there's this World Heritage Site. It's a park. And people from all over the world come there to make pilgrimage. And you can literally sit beside the tree that the Buddha sat at. And it's a really incredible experience to do that. It's just wonderful. And then also, you know, the Dalai Lama lives in India as part of the Tibetan refugee community, and we got to meet him, actually.
Wow.
It's in my book. It was incredible. It was an incredible thing that happened for us, and that was also another transformational moment. Gosh, I've had so many. It's hard to pick one, but that would be another one. And, so that's what we loved about India. And then as a family, we were there together. And unlike our American lifestyle where this one has to go to that school and this one goes there and this one has practice and I'm off to work. And basically family life is sort of juggling and organizing where everybody goes and has what they need to get there. When you're traveling, you're all together. You're moving as one, and you're spending a lot of time together. And so that was just precious. My kids were 10 and 14, and, they were about to move into the next phase of their lives as teenagers and older children. And so it's like we got to snatch them back for one last family adventure. And, we all got really close during that time.
That's amazing.
We drove each other crazy a little, too, but...
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what families do, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But it was such an amazing adventure that when I got back, I realized that I just had to write. I had to write about it. We did not do the trip with the intention that I would write a book. But when I got back and everyone wanted to know, how was India? How was it? So how was it? And I just could not figure out how to answer that in some sort of short, compact way. I started saying, well, I'm going to have to write a book to answer that question because it was epic. And so I started writing, and the writing just really took a life of its own, and it became an opportunity for me to sort of have a second round of the journey and really process and integrate so many of the amazing experiences we had, and I just really enjoyed writing the book.
You know what I think is fascinating is that somebody experiences the same thing as someone else but has a completely different interpretation of that experience. Did you find that to be true? Like you and your husband, you guys had the same experience, you just interpreted it differently. Or the kids had the same experience, but they interpreted it differently. And they saw things that meant something to them that you're like, oh, yeah, that's normal. Yeah, it's, but to them it was fascinating. Or, between you and your husband, it was, you internalized what was taking place and felt either differently or, well, this means this. I find it fascinating. Two people have the same exact experience but have a different outcome of it.
Absolutely. So one thing I did was I excerpted some of my kids' diaries into my book because when I started writing, they handed me over their diaries. So we all journaled on the trip, and that's how I could really recreate in such detail, the sequence of events and specifics. And my 14-year-old especially was prolific. She wrote this beautiful diary, and this was her first trip out of the United States. So we just sort of jumped in full on. We didn't do a little test run. And her diary was so amazing. Her perceptions, they were just so funny and 14 and, full-hearted. So she gave me permission, and I excerpted her diary entries. And then my younger one, we have a couple of her diary entries in and some of her drawings too, because she really expresses herself through art. As for my husband, his sort of words of wisdom that, from our conversations are throughout. And then our joke is that he's going to write a sequel to this book called What Really Happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, because honestly, some issues in our marriage. So we've been married 18 years when we took this journey, and we had some issues, like all families do, that really bubbled up along the journey, and our marriage did have sort of a reckoning at the end of the trip where some things happened and changes were made, things were revisited, and I wasn't sure at first I would put that into the book. I thought, that's just so vulnerable and raw, and I wouldn't want to do that to Adam and blah, blah, blah. But when I got into the writing, that was such an intense and compelling part of the story that I just couldn't tease it out of the whole thing. And I realized that this would make the book so much more relatable because
Yep.
when people see me from the outside, they think, oh, my gosh, this family is so amazing. You know, they did this thing. They must be perfect. How did they ever pull that off? I could never do that. And then if you read my book and you see how our marriage sort of fell apart and came back together, and then you see, wow, like this family is actually flawed and mistakes are made, and they still do amazing things, and they can still make a huge difference in the world. And that has really sort of become the message, I think, of the book ultimately, is that to inspire readers, like, you don't have to wait until everything's perfect or your marriage is perfect or this is perfect. Like, things can be flawed and not perfect, and you can still follow your heart. You can still make bold changes. You can still follow your dreams. And, you know, it's going to be messy, but it's going to be wonderful.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what love is. Love is messy and wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, those that know us very closely, you know, are very close friends, you know, they know, you know, how our family is and how me and my wife are together. And the outside looking in, like, man, they got it all together. Man, they got it all figured out. And like we hear all the time, like, your family's so beautiful and your kids are so well behaved. I don't know what it is. You know, I mean, I know what our parents said. And I you know, you give the brief, like, all right, kids, here we go. Be nice, be polite. You just give them the reminders, right? And it's like, you leave the house and you go, let's say you go to dinner somewhere, and they're like, oh, they're so well behaved. Like, you didn't see me yell at them not even 10 minutes ago. Like, you know, you look at them, you know, you look at the whole family as a collective unit. You're like, oh, what a beautiful family. And everybody's internally thinking, like, I just, this person makes me mad, and this person makes me mad. Like, you didn't see us have a huge fight 10 minutes ago.
All the screaming, can't find a sock, these shoes don't fit me anymore, we can't go. And so my memoir is pretty funny. It's got a lot of the family dynamics, and it shows all the messy bits, and you know, we show our best when we're out in public, and it's like all the messy stuff happens when you guys are just together at home. I think that's pretty normal.
Yep, right. So with us, we've just decided that, you know, however we are at home, or, you know, however we, you know, however, whatever we believe, whatever we do, you know, just, you know, like, so my wife and I will sit there and, like, say things back and forth to each other. Playful banter, if you will, you know, and people look at us like, you guys always like this? We're like, yeah, pretty much. Like, it's like, why hide it anymore? You know, it's like, however you are at the house or in the car, like, we're just going to be like that all the time and just see what happens. And people literally just stare at us because we act the way that we would normally act, like, no matter what, you know what I mean? So if something, you know, makes us mad, we talk about it. You know, like in a restaurant or in line at Walmart the other day. I was just like, really?
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do? Really? Like, well, you know, this. I'm like, what? And we're like literally like working things out, like in the middle of the checkout line. Like, was like, we'll talk about it when we get home. We'll revisit this when we get home. We're like, screw it, do it now. You know, and so people just look and laugh.
Imagine you're on a world trip for 8 months with your kids. You can't wait till you get home.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no waiting to get home then. You got to do it now. Yep. So talk about the award. That's so cool, right? The award that you, like, the gold medal in travel literature for 2019 Independent Publishers Awards. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked, honestly. I mean, this is my first book. I have been a writer all my life. I mean, but I'd never written a book before. And my publicist suggested I send it to this massive award contest, and then it won the gold. So I'm actually going to go to New York City. I'm going to be in New York City doing some book events in May, and I'm going to collect my gold medal at the gala event. And, it's really exciting. It's a nice, I think my book is great, but now other people have decided it is as well. So that's very exciting, especially because my book has only been out for 3 weeks. So this is a great start to my publishing journey, to my book's journey into the world.
That's very cool. I like that a lot. Where do you go from here? You did the trip. You got the book. The book's an award-winning book. Where do you go from here?
Well, right now I'm in the middle of my book tour. So, the next 2 months I'm speaking at bookstores and traveling around and doing book signings, and going to New York in May is kind of the highlight of that. I'd like to start writing another book, which I've already tentatively titled Rebel Midwife, about my years as a home birth midwife. I'm not doing home birth midwifery right now. I'm taking a break, which is good to do in life. I think things ebb and flow, and it's nice to sort of focus on other things. So I'm hoping to get back to writing as soon as all this hullabaloo for this book calms down. Of course, we want to go back to India, but our youngest child, I have a daughter now in college, and she's thriving. She's doing great. And then I have a daughter in high school, and she really loves the school she's at. So we're probably going to sit tight for about 3 more years while she finishes high school. Then when she finishes high school, I would really like to go back to India, my husband and I together, and go even deeper into our Buddhist studies, and, maybe like your guest on that other podcast, maybe live in a monastery for a few months and get to really have some time to dive into the practices of Buddhism. Buddhism is so beautiful. It's always relevant because it can be more like a philosophy than a religion, that that our true essence is love and wisdom and compassion, and that's our true essence. And when we get distracted with busyness and reactions to things and anger and irritation, our essence is still love and wisdom and compassion. It's just kind of covered the way clouds can cover the sun. The sun is still there, but it does look cloudy from the ground. So when you go and you take time to study Buddhism and practice meditation, you just get to practice. You get to sort of cultivate the love and the compassion. Then it's easier when you're out back in your busy life. It's easier to remember and be a little less reactive, less quick to anger, less distracted. And so, it's kind of like every few years I find it's really good to do sort of a spiritual tune-up, whether that's like a meditation retreat or going to India. I mean, it could be anything, really. Anything can be a pilgrimage if that's your intention. So even just a backpacking trip in the local wilderness, wherever you live, and spend some time, tuning in and doing what are your personal practices to really listen to that love and wisdom. And so when we finish raising kids, which is going to be in like 3 years, although of course I know you never finish raising kids, but when we're not responsible for their day-to-day, we would like to go back to India.
Heck yeah.
Again. Yeah. Yeah.
Heck yeah. So here's what I want to do. I want to do perfect. Here's what I want to do. I want to do a shameless plug. You can plug friends, quotes, websites, Facebook, whatever it is that you want the audience to know and to do. Plug your book, Amazon. do a shameless plug. Go.
Okay, so I'm really hoping to reach an audience of readers. My book is not just for Buddhists. It's for anyone interested in adventure and travel, anyone interested in family and motherhood, love, marriage. So please go online right now and buy my book, The Buddha Sat Right Here. It's available on Amazon. It's available on barnesandnobles.com. It's available on IndieBound. You can go to my website, denamoes.com, DenaMoes.com, with links to buy the book and to learn more about me. If you Google my name, I have essays about this trip to India all over the internet right now. An excerpt of my book is on ravishly.com.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just love to have some readers, and I'm also available if you go to my website if you're interested in hearing from me for speaking engagements to talk about travel or family, Buddhism, midwifery. You can find links to contact me directly.
Very cool.
Was that shameless
I love
enough?
it. Oh, yeah. No, I love it. So everybody right now, go and get her book on Amazon. Right now, go get her book, The Buddha Sat Right Here, A Family Odyssey Through India and Nepal.
It's on sale. It's only like $12. So, it's a great investment.
Definitely. I think they'll learn a lot. Right? I think they'll, oh my gosh, don't even get me started. I know people that spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on stuff that doesn't matter, like material things. If you put that into personal development, how much better of a person would you be?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the crap that people buy. Like, you can take $500 and invest in something that's going to make you a better person, rather than the $500 for like a TV because you want the newest TV, or $1,000 because you want the newest iPhone, or whatever the reason be. Why don't you put it into personal development?
Yeah.
They don't.
This book is getting rave reviews. People are saying it's a page turner, and they're loving it, and they're learning so much. So it's a great use of $12 for sure.
Perfect. I love it. So as we close the show, give us a nugget of knowledge that will motivate, transcend, and inspire someone to take action today.
A nugget of wisdom. Well, I would just say that there's a lot of power in intention. And so in Tibetan Buddhism, there's something called the Bodhisattva vow, where you just make the intention that whatever it is you do, whether it's driving the carpool, cooking someone lunch, caring for a sick relative, working a job, just imagine, just say the little intention and visualize that whatever it is you're doing for the benefit of all beings. And in Tibetan Buddhism, we say all mother beings, because there's this idea that everyone has been your mother in a past life. So you should treat every living being with that kind of love and respect. If we all just had that intention and kept it in our hearts, what a beautiful world we would live in. And that's the world that I dream for all of us to live in together.
Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a delight to speak with you, and I wish you and your family all the best.
You as well. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around her. If anything resonated with you, please contact her on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and go to Dena, D-E-N-A, Dena Moes, M-O-E-S, DenaMoes.com. So as we close the show, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.